Ooh. Welcome. Welcome. So my name is Uma Dinsmore-Tuli, and I am delighted to be speaking today with Yoli Maya Yeh.
Hello. Hello, friend.
Yeah. So Yoli is speaking to us from Turtle Island and is going to elucidate, I hope, and share her direct experience of the places in India where the Mahavidyas are celebrated and honored. Yoli Maya Yeh has a master's in comparative religious ethics and years of direct experience of the Mahavidyas in Kamakya. Would you like to situate these wonderful 10 goddesses? I'm sat here with Kali, and some people believe that like they're a manifestation, all of her. Where did you meet them, Yoli?
Where did I meet them? Honestly, the first time I met them, I was in my teens. And I kind of had this like daydream practice where I would just lay in my bed and look out the window at this giant spruce tree for hours, like 4 or 5 hours out of my bedroom. So Turtle Island is our traditional name for North America in the Great Lakes region, a very, very important area of Turtle Island, great freshwater source. And in the tiny city called Chicago. And one day, Tripura Sundari appeared to me. And she began to be a regular person. Yeah, I guess I call her person. Yeah, a regular entity in my life, guiding me. She would particularly appear in crisis moments. I, and like fraught moments and moments of deep reflection and inquiry. And later on, the person who I would, later study with and receive tantric empowerment from, said, oh, that's your Ishta Devi. Like that's how that emerged, was, that like the goddess appeared to you in the resonant form that resonated with me, right? And like my character and my personality and my medicine. And he described, well, you have to get to know her. You have to really get to know, her story, and then her like posse of sistren of the Dasha Mahavidyas, the 10 wisdom mothers. And so this was in the context of a tantric school, so a wrathful tantric non-monastic lineage rooted in indigenous tradition of the Northeast Himalaya region that includes Bengal, Sikkim, Bhutan, Tibet, Assam, historically, a little bit of Bihar is this kind of bubble in the tantric. Let's see, how do we want to describe that? The map of tantric styles.
So
there being 5 of those.
So geographically, you're talking about like the northeast of India.
The northeast, and this is the area of the blue mother of Ugratara, the wrathful blue mother, often confused with Kali. One of the main iconographical differences is Ma Kali wears a garland of heads, severed heads, and Ugratara, the wrathful blue mother, wears a garland of skulls. And in the context of iconography, those have 2 different meanings. They are 2 different archetypes. Ugratara is the mother, is the main deity of the school that I practiced in.
Yeah.
And then we were also in I keep doing like this, the geographical region of Ugratara, as opposed to these five mothers,
Yeah.
you know, each one being of a different sort of color, you know, of yellow, red, white, blue, and green. These are your five Tara structures. Now, what's so interesting is you're like, yeah, no, we're not here to talk about the five Taras. We're here to talk about Kamakya, about the 10 wisdom mothers. No. This is all one structure. This is all one canon. I love it to use that word. A canon of goddesses. And they're part of a grand structure of 5 Taras, 10 Mahavidyas, 8 Matrikas, 8 mothers, and the Mahavidyas were the great wisdom mothers, 8 Matrikas, and 64 yoginis.
Yeah. And they don't show up on their own. They show up as posses, as teams. This is such an important part of the understanding of the wisdom.
What was Kamakya? Kamakya was home of the Dasha Mahavidyas, and so the 10 wisdom mothers and the 64 yoginis. Kamakya was an Amazon colony. It was a queendom. And there were no men, actually, only all these goddesses. And they would only allow one man to come in, and he had to be a Superman. And there were only ever 4 yogis allowed in the history of the queendom of Kamakya. Not that. And so now you're going to say, Yoli, can you tell me what book I can find that in? And I will say, I cannot, because this is the difference between direct oral lineage teaching, which is primary source in the indigenous context. Only in the Western scholastic context are books and research considered primary source, right? And then any sort of oral commentary by default would be considered secondary source, because it's only considered primary source because that you have to be there, right? As if the scholars were there, you know what I mean?
Yeah, we have the privilege of hearing direct from you being there, because I understand that Kamakya in Assam is actually the location for a fairly serious gathering that honors those Mahavidyas. Do we have to describe Kamakya first, and then we can hear
well, yes, and it to talk about Kamakya again, like let's say we Google Kamakya, what's gonna come up? What's gonna come up is the same stuff that will come up if you Google the Mahavidyas. What you're gonna find is the story that they want you to hear. What you're gonna find is the story that the patriarchy centers. What you're gonna find is the story that white supremacy centers. It's all like, we can't unsee it once we see these systems. So let's call it all in, right? And so what's that story? Well, that story is, you know, Sati the victim, Sati the self-sacrifice, Sati the Sati, you know, Sati who's gonna chop herself up and her vagina is going to fall upon this mountain. And that is Kamakya. And it's like the first time and the 800th time I've heard that story, I'm like, who's the author of that story? Like, for real, like, whose story? Who is benefited by that story, right? Who's benefited by Sati sacrificing herself and chopping herself up? At her, I think in that story she doesn't chop herself up, but then her body's chopped up and her vagina, her body parts scattered, and her vagina falls upon this mountain top in the state of Assam in the northeast. And that's why Kamakya is important. No. I've actually already clued you in on why Kamakya is important, because one of the baddest ass Amazon colonies, was there. And that's the energy that's there. So Kamakya is a town. It's a very cute town, actually, in the modern state of Assam in northeast India subcontinent region. And there sits a conical mountain, Kamakya. It's like a hill. And on that hill are 10 temples, one for each of the wisdom goddesses. And these temples are so old, and they're done in such an old style. When most people go to temples, what they are accustomed to seeing are imageries that rise up. Okay, so like whether it's a painting in front of you, or a statue, or an image, or a lingam like this. But what you find in these temples are the yantras that right behind you, the yantras, and they are, so if this is ground level, they are carved into the earth herself. And whose temple is Kamakya actually? Who is the main deity of Kamakya? It's not Kali. It's not a Kali temple at the center. Is the temple of Ma Bashodara or Yashodhara, depending on your pronunciation. But in Bengali style is Ya is Ba, right? So Ma Bashodara, the Earth Mother. So whose temple is at Kamakya? The Earth Mother's temple. And also these 10 temples to these 10 wisdom mothers. It's kind of like, curious, right?
Because the body of the earth herself is holding the temples, and you have to go into the body of the earth to be in the temple. Yeah, you have to
and
go down.
You have to, like many of the temples, to reach the yantras, to reach, the yantras that are in the earth, they're 3-dimensional in the earth. You have to enter these womb spaces where you shimmy through these. And I mean, for me, I'm 6'1", 2 pounds, and like you shimmy in through this thing, and you arrive in this chamber, and you'll pack them into, there'll be like 3-4 people in the chamber, and it's hot and moist and sweating. Just like a vagina, right? Like, just like a womb space. And then what's amazing is in the main temple, in the Mabasha temple, once a year, a red fluid flows from the yantra. And so during that time, since then, there are families that have come up that are tied to the temples. There's the priestly families who perform the pujas of the temples. It's a very later construct, this whole temple priest family thing, and they will stop all the pujas for about 6 days while Ma has her moon time. And who floods in are about 100,000 of the baddest, most feared tantric yogis and yoginis that exist today. We're talking Kapalika headhunters. We're talking about like the real Bhairavis, the real real, when I'm saying genuine, independent yoginis that like when they walk into a space, there's like a cool mist that follows them, and you feel your stomach drop into your arsehole, and like they are formidable.
And what happens in this annual gathering for celebrating Ma's moon time? Do they?
I'm telling you.
Temples, yeah.
No, I'm telling you.
Yeah.
All these tantrikas come in, and you got your Kashmiri Shaivites, you got like Giri Babas, I'm not talking about some like Kumbh Mela business here. I'm talking about something Like, it's like the, I'm forgetting the name of the bar in Star Wars where Han Solo is, I'm forgetting the name of the planet and the bar, where it's all the scoundrels and the pirates and the hooligans, and it's like that. And it's a bunch of spiritual pirates that roll in, and not tourists, not, no, practitioners. And what they will do for 6 days is Kumari Puja. They will worship the prepubescent girls of the priests' families in order to potentially obtain the siddhi of those practices. And what do these little girls do? Run game. They are hilarious because basically for a week they run the show. They're being worshipped, they're being gifted, you know, these high seat holding, you know, yogis and yoginis of all sorts of badassery are bowing at their feet, you know, kind of thing. And so it's all like, there's a lot of like games and like take the piss kind of activity that goes on, you know, where like these little kumaris, these little yoginis will challenge, because they won't just give their blessings. They won't just be like, oh yeah, okay, you got gifts for me, like it's puja time. No. It's their job. It's the Kumari's job, the little Kumari matas, to vet the yogis. Are they eligible to have the puja? And they'll say no. They'll absolutely say no. They run game, you know? And so it is one of the most extraordinary things I've ever been to. I've been to a few times. I've been to Kamakya itself several times. To go not during the mela, during the festival, it's like the nicest. It's just like gardens, greenery. You don't want to get lost because it's like wild tiger infested in the jungle there. And you like half the temples you don't go visit because there's actually like tiger infested jungle. And like meditate and puja, and just like the cuisine itself is like so delightful. And then of course there's the context of modern India, that like Northeast India is a completely different story. And so why is it a completely different story? I'm like reading your mind through this call, you know, a little historical thing. So what is this region I'm describing? What is this region of, I'll do it again, like what is this region of a little bit of Odisha, Bengal, a little bit of Bihar, a little bit of Nepal, a little bit of Tibet, and then if we're kind of rounding it around, we come around into this little bit of Assam, right? And then also inside there will be Bhutan and Sikkim. Smaller places, right? Big mountains, small places, big mountains. This is the geographical area of the South Asian subcontinent where the Vedas did not penetrate. And the Vedas, let's remember, the Vedas are quite patriarchal in their centering. And when you arrive to this region, even in modern day India, you feel a whole other flavor. You're like, what is going on here? What's going on is Ma. That's Ma country. Ma rules there. And now we're recording this recording on about the 5th, 6th day, depending on where you are in the world, of Navratri, the fall Durga Puja. And if there was one time to go to this area of the world, it's like today. Oh my gosh, the 9 Nights Festival, the Durga Puja Festival, it is just one of the most special and fun things, only rivaled by the spring Durga Puja, that of the spring mother. This is the harvest mother, you know, and the spring mother is she's the mother of love, you know. And so that's actually the start of a marriage season in India. You know, people don't even know these things anymore, you know. And so so we're you know, talking about these goddesses and inviting in their medicine and their forms, and you know, such a fun syncretic moment in time. And so, you know, this historical region was, you know, it wasn't just like, you know, the like it's Ma country, so the Vedas didn't penetrate. It was also like elephant cavalries and like really formidable, well-organized queendoms and kingdoms, and you know, there were some other, you know, more practical reasons why everybody from, you know, Vedic culture to Alexander the Great stopped at this line. The British did as well. They had to come up with a whole economic program to actually, they had to do their old divide and rule move and cause fracture between the then Muslim, and this is actually an incorrect way of describing this, but this is what the paradigm most people know of how the British had to wedge in and fracture the Hindu and Muslim communities of historical Bengal. What Bengal has always had is one genuine pluralistic cosmopolitan society. The original Islam of Bengal was African Sufism. I'm talking about Black Africa by way of Bay of Bengal. The original Hinduism of the region is Vaishnavite Sahajya. So your you know, Vaishnavite practices and lineages that everybody knows, that come through Sri Chaitanya. Sri Chaitanya's teacher was Nityananda. Nityananda was a Vajrayana Sahaji. He was of the fabric of this place I'm describing for you, that was a beautiful 5-way braid of Buddha Dharma, Indigenous Dharma, Sufi Dharma, this Vaishnavite devotional Dharma, and even a little bit of like other diasporic dharmas that came early on. So this region, it's such a just fantastically special place. So really zeroing in with these goddesses, right? And situating them historically, that the common story, so we gave the common story of Kamakya and Sati. So the other common story that we hear is the story of how, you know, Sati wanted to go see her father and Shiva was like, no. I mean, as if this were the story. Like, I don't believe it personally. It doesn't resonate as true for me, but this is the story. And it's not that this story doesn't have archetypal meaning and power and that we shouldn't tell it. I'm just bringing you into like something before, okay? And that is that like that Kali created 9 emanations of herself and then creates this mandala, you know, around Shiva to like effectively babysit him. Come on, like Ma did what she did because like, yeah, she was flexing a little bit, you know what I mean? You know, like she was stretching her wings and fluffing her feathers a little bit. Like this wasn't a display of matriarchy controlling patriarchy. It's every once in a while, you gotta let somebody know. You gotta let them know, like, I'm holding all this, you know?
Because that's
And
the sense of her coming from all the directions. So it's like she literally, in that story, if you get that, you're like revealing to us how you can get in underneath the story and see the archetype, but basically she is everywhere and everything, and she's just showing up in all these directions, and no matter where he looks, there she is. It's just like, will you pay attention here, you know?
Yeah, and it's very much a like, almost like an all for one for all vibe, you know, of just like, there's no hierarchy here amongst these goddesses. There's no one that's more powerful than the other. There's no one that's better than the other. Yes, they all can be one. They can all also open up in this fantastical structure. But let's remember what's behind all of this. All this yantra, mandala, this sacred geometrical practice, also where the whole conversation today started, this Ishta Devi business, this imagery of the goddess, the iconography of the goddess. It's all you. None of this is anything other than you. So for me, I don't need a disempowered goddess. I also don't need a dismembered goddess. What I need is what I believe, and that is that these 10 wisdom mothers were 10 historical people, and their level of badassery was so high that they became mythified. Because why do systems of patriarchy, colonization, and white supremacy, why do they need to mythify? To disempower. Because if these now women are archetypes that I cannot obtain in my taboo and impure human form, I bleed, I am impure, right? Like in this impure form, one shouldn't even gaze upon the goddesses as you bleed, you nasty woman, go out to the bleed barn, you know, kind of thing, right? And so like these practices have evolved, these stories have evolved to disempower you from the truth. One, first and foremost, that you are the goddess. Two, that these were historical people who we then captured their character and essence, because I need them to be historical people so that I can become them. Look, no, I'm not the goddess in my everyday actions. You know, like I'm making my way there through my sadhana, through my practice, right? And I do need a form to aspire towards. I need something to align with. But just like where I started my storytelling today, which lets me know that we've come full circle, the Devi appeared to me, the Devi that is the resonance of my energy as Tripura Sundari. And I can connect with Ma Chinnamasta, and I can connect with Ma Dhumavati, you know, in the form of future Yoli, you know, and I can connect with Ma Tangi and her rebelliousness like this, but I have a special connection, right, that came about in a way I was not introduced to these archetypes. I did not have a preconceived notion. I was not a tantric practitioner at this age and stage and time. Could there have been like some past life thing coming through? Sure. Do I think that that's highly possible as a factor? Yes, absolutely. And what is so critically important is the realness of these women and historically locating them and allowing for all of it to be real. Not because an archaeologist says it's real, and not because somebody from a text that says it was real and then translated it out of a secret language, like they speak a secret language, side note. No, it's real because my body says it is. Because my embodied, lived experience says that it is. Did you have any more questions, Ma?
This is like the heart of like why we're bothering to pay any attention to any of this in the first place. There's real empowerment and precious sharing, which I'm deeply glad to be able to, you know, share with everybody here on this course. So I'm really grateful to hear all this from you, and to encourage everyone to listen up, listen in again, and tune in to like the actual embodied connection that becomes, you know, that is the reality of our links to these energies. So yeah,
I'll give just one little postscript, and
yeah,
that is, it's not our job to culturally appropriate
yeah,
these practices. But just as I described my personal journey, right? We are welcomed to have our personal journeys.
yeah.
Right? And the body is the starting place, the ending place. Right? It's really about the lived experience.
And I believe that it's important when we situate these lived experience in the historical and cultural and political context that's deeply shared by you, so that people can begin to appreciate exactly where Kamakya is, what goes on there, how long that's been going on. And at the same time, honoring that, we can also feel their living presence in the lives of every woman and girl. And that's kind of the teachings in the stories, even though, you know, is that actually she's there in honoring every woman and girl. It's all present, you know. So I think that's a good place to end.
Yes. Thank you for this invitation. I trust you all have enjoyed this little storytelling. There's always more.
I would love for people to know, I'm sure everyone has enjoyed the storytelling. I'm deeply grateful for what you have offered to us with generosity. Where might people go and find more of your storytelling?
I know. You can find whatever I'm teaching listed on my website, and that's yogawithyoli.com. And I have some fun women-centered learning spaces, and tantric esoteric teachings. There'll be more of this coming up over the next few years as well, you know, just peering into the future. And also I teach something called Decolonization Toolkit, which is really, you know, this other lens that we must develop. So info about that's there. And if you want to catch me on the socials, Yoli Maya Yeh, on the Facebook, and at Yoli Yogini on Instagram.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jaima.
Jaima.
Dasha Mahavidya Mata ki Jai.
Yay!
Thank you, Yoli love. That's it. We are done here. Thank you.
Stop recording.
Very much.